distinguished speakers and panelists that have graced our occasion today. Thank you so much for making time to come here. I'll first start with Dr. Nkundwe Mwasaga, the ICT Commission, Tanzania Director General. Maybe you can talk to us and maybe introduce yourself to the audience. Dr. Mwasaga.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Nkundwe Mwasaga. I'm the ICT Commission of Tanzania. So glad to be in this event to discuss a very important issue that is currently in the digital landscape of the world that has to do with AI.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mwasaga. Again, we appreciate your presence in our forum. Asante sana. I'll also go to Ms. Tignis. Maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself and then we can proceed to Dr. Lucy.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning for me and some of you who are in my time zone. Good afternoon for some of you and good morning. I'm happy to join after a while AfICTA. I'm Tegista Weke. I'm originally from Ethiopia. Right now I'm in US and I've been working in the data analytics area right now on the generative AI area. Right now I'm working on that one. I've been working with UN, World Bank and IMF, and now I'm working on different startups. That's who I am and looking forward to discuss this very exciting topic with you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tigis. Dr. Lucy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy. And I'm currently in the US on a Fulbright program. That means I'm in a program that is being sponsored by the US government. And I'm a mathematician and I do teach at Strathmore University in Nairobi, Kenya. And I'm so excited and honored to be part of the panelists and speakers for this event. And I'm looking forward to both learning and also sharing what the little knowledge I might have with the the people who are attending this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy, for also making time to be with us today. And for all the panelists and invited guests, we are so honored to have you here and also to benefit from the wealth of knowledge that you guys have and also what our audience have. And so I want the session to be very interactive. We'll be taking questions from the audience and I'm sure that we'll have a good conversation going forward. So next I'll ask the Secretariat to continue. Secretariat.
All right, Ms. Rachel. So I believe we can dive straight into the major aspect of this event, which is discussion. So we have all the speakers with us. I think we can start with the presentations. I believe some of our speakers are having a presentation or the other to make. So Ms. Rachel, please take over from here. Let them come forward one after the other. We appreciate them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Secretariat. I think we can start with Ms. Tigis. Maybe you can share with us your presentation and to the audience, please. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't expecting to be the first one, but I will try. So, okay, let me try to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Okay, or let me send you via email and maybe you can share it, or
you can try reshare again.
Yeah, if it is readily available, you can share with me on WhatsApp, Mr. Gis.
I'm on my mission, so I will let you share it over the email. So it will be way easier for you to access it. So let me do that.
Meanwhile, as Ms. Tigris shares the presentation, we can start introducing yourself. We can share our links and emails and ways we can reconnect after this conversation to further the conversation outside this space. And so Secretariat, I've seen people are sharing their contact information, the email addresses. And so meaning this conversation is quite interesting. So we are open to continue this conversation outside. So let us continue talking on the chats. Also, you can post your question on the Q&A for the panelists when we open the forum for the questions. Okay. Meanwhile, I think I can open the forum to Dr. Lucy. Maybe, Doctor, you can give us an insight of your outlook on AI and governance in the digital space in Africa and what your thoughts are as we wait for the presentation to come out.
Oh, okay. So for me, I'm looking at it as a conversation that we need to have. But at the beginning, we should ask ourselves, when we talk about governance, what exactly comes to our mind? Many people would think we're talking about national government only, or we are looking at governments, like as we understand it. But from where I am seated, I would look at, I would describe governance as a process where like responsibilities are shared, resources are shared, and it's like a set of rules that tell us how to go on to achieve a particular vision we will have put for ourselves or a particular goal that we want to achieve and so forth. So when we set out to do something as a society, as a group, as a company, then the rules that we set on the ground to ensure that we achieve what we hope to achieve, I would call it governance. So the process is, how do we then put in artificial intelligence into the space of governance? And the governance now can come from the low, from the very low space. It could even be chamas. Chamas is what we call in Kenya. It's a group of people that come together to, to share resources and invest together and so forth. So it can be a small group as a chama, or can go forward all the way to a corporate governance. It can go now to a country governance or a county governance. And now even like now we have AU and we have all that, like it can just become, governance can be anything, yeah? So it is the set of rules that we put down. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, again, many people freak out because they think, oh, robotics, oh, things like are really, really abstract, and therefore people detach from the process. They think, oh, I'm not a good I'm not a good coder. I don't code. I don't do programming. But AI is not about that, and AI is also, it's not just about that, and AI is not, again, just about robotics. It's not like something as simple as a chat box. That is application of AI, artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, in a nutshell, if I was to explain it to a child, is trying to teach a computer or a particular computer application or a gadget how to more and more mimic human behavior. And it mimics human behavior and learns as you feed it data and information. And when you feed it in information, then therefore it's going to be able to assist. Like, let me give an example. For those people who use iPhones, there is Siri. So before you use Siri, you have to keep on repeating particular phrases until it's able to get so that it's able to learn your pronunciation and so forth. When we're looking at our Safaricom, like Safaricom, a company in Kenya, when we talk about at Safaricom, my voice is my protection, again, you have to say it over and over again until now it is embedded into the system. So and it can also be even as simple like when you're going to the website and you have some questions. So it can be what we call like a very simple process where a chat box answers questions, and if they're unable, then they send you to a human agent who can answer those questions. So when we talk about AI, for me, it just blows my mind because we have so many tools that can be used in the processes of governance. And I'm very excited about sharing much as we continue talking. So that is, I just felt as a teacher, first we have to break down what exactly are we talking about, and the reason also, the other thing is I'm excited about this conversation is that many people are left out, especially when one of the things we talk about inclusivity. How does AI enable inclusivity of the people who are not able to use computers and, and so much. So the thing is, I'm here for the knowledge. I'm here for sharing and knowing. And that's the little I can say as we prepare the presentations from the other speakers.
Wow, I was just waiting for that explanation. The teacher aspect had to come out, Dr. Lucy, and we appreciate that. Okay, I'll also ask if the PPT is ready so that we can project that. Is the presentation ready? Not yet.
Secretariat, if you have it good, otherwise I'll continue and maybe we can share it at the end.
Yes, please.
Okay,
So,
I have the presentation with me, but I would request that Dr. Mwasaga, okay, Dr. Lucy, kindly yield the host rights back to me, please.
Okay, Dr. Lucy, I think you have the host's rights. Maybe you can give it back to Secretariat. Okay. Maybe we can have, maybe Dr. Mwasaga, you can give us an outlook of what you feel this conversation should be about, or what is your take on the topic as we continue. Dr. Mwasaga? Maybe you can give us an outlook of...
Hello?
You can give us an outlook of the conversation and what is your thoughts as...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I think you're breaking a bit. I don't know if your connection is okay, but we can hear you.
Yeah. First of all, the topic is very relevant. In our content, I can say we are in the level where
I think we are losing you, Dr. Mwasaga. I think you have lost him, right? His connection seems to be a problem. You can go back to the presentation as we wait for Dr. Mwasaga. So Ms. Tegris, you can progress with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for everyone. And so I was I was working on this generative AI, and I just recently also finished a couple of courses with MIT, and I have been involved really on generative AI because it's also the new things that's really bombarded here around us. So I was trying to look at it, how we can make use of generative AI on that regard in our continent. But what it means is when you are using these generative AI capabilities, it's coming with lots and lots of capabilities, and we are going to be equipped, or we are already equipped, but to access it, to know how to use it, we need really a big deal of governance. Governance is one of the major things that it's not right now about our continent or the different countries within our continent, but all over the world, everyone is discussing about how to govern it because it's upcoming, it is new, it's emerging, and there are lots of things that are going on around it. So first, let's talk a little bit about what do you mean by AI and what differentiates it from generative AI. So I will take whatever has been discussed by Dr. Lucy earlier about AI, and that's all features that are available on AI, automating, teaching the machine to act in a certain way. Like if you like to identify using AI whether something is an apple or not, you'll give it different shapes of apple, different colors of apple. You'll teach the machine, and then the machine will start to give you an answer whenever it sees an apple or an orange. It can differentiate an orange from an apple. That was what has been discussing, and that has been the machine learning, the older version of what AI has been doing. And then what Dr. Lucy has also discussed about the chatbot capabilities came in, and based on that, this generative AI continued from that area. So generative AI is quite a new field, as you can hear it. Like it has been almost a year now, since almost 2 years now. Well, time flies. Since we start to hear a lot about this open AI, generative AIs, upcoming new technologies all over the world. So what has really started generative AI? Generative AI was something that AI has been seeking for too long. It is changes basically around on mathematical functions, and things have moved away when a Google paper on 2017, I think by 6 to 8 Google engineers have wrote a paper. It says attention is all you need. I put it over here. Maybe you can Google it. It's accessible. So that is the thing that has really emerged this generative AI. So what you see now about the Google BERT, now they just changed it to Gemini. what you are hearing all about right now on the news and everywhere. Generative AI is, the Google Gemini is hallucinating. The news has went, the hallucination part, especially on image generation, but what it can do, or GPT is, I know that it's not accessible in everywhere in the world, but in some parts of the world, it's already accessible, or ChatGPT is what we call it. So these things happened because of how the transformer architecture on AI has moved away. So that is quite a little bit of the technical part of it before we move into the governance aspect of it and what it can do, this generative AI, what it can do for us. So what is generative AI? Generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence. It's one of its types of what has been discussed and what's already has been available in the world that broadly describes machine learning, system capability. But now it's no more about teaching the machine. There are supervised and unsupervised ways of teaching the machine. So when it comes to generative AI, what it becomes is like you'll teach the machine a bunch of data, like ChatGPT is now has learned from over 45 trillions of data on the internet data. And then whatever information you are trying to fetch in, you'll ask it, and it will develop text, it will develop image, it will even now, if you have heard of about the news on Sora, if you, those of you who have been following this artificial intelligence, then you can just type a text and it will give you a video. That is how the capabilities have gone up. So whatever text you want to type in, you can type in, like if you like to understand about, for example, governance, what type of governance does Kenya need or Ethiopia need on regarding generative AI, and it will draft you a document which will take lots of expertise ideas. So what I've been what I'm going to present will be around it, so that how can we really use these capabilities for our purpose? So I try to look at it from two different perspectives. So as generative AI can generate text, can generate images, and can generate videos. Just type. It's like the deepfake version is there, but it's not about the deepfake version. It's about you just type something and it will develop something for you. So can you please go down to the next slide, the next one? The next one, please. So I'm trying to look at it, what type of opportunities this generative AI, AI in general, and very specifically this generative AI can bring into for us on our side, so we can really make use of it. So first of all, access to information for all has become available. So we always talk about our digital divide, we always talk about how knowledge gap we have, and it is obvious we don't have the resources, or the knowledge that we have is also really, on my view, really intact, what we have. And we, in Africa, we have a different perspective, a different approach to the rest of how some of the other parts of the world thinks and functions. And our data, our knowledge is not yet really accessible. Now, this access to information for all being available means we will be able to showcase how we see our perspective. Like, I don't see that African perspective or our continent is a unique continent, as everybody is unique. Our way of doing things, mostly also for us, we have been using really mouth-to-mouth word. Is when we lose an elder, we always say that we lose a library. So a ton of information has been kept on human beings. But now it gives us a chance to share also our knowledge, our wisdom to the rest of the world also, because access to information for all is there. Because these informations, how we are accessing, how we are training the models, specifically, whenever we are talking about generative AI, we are talking about the models called large language models, LLMs. So how we teach that model is how it matters. So access to information for all is going to be available, and it is already available right now. So how we access it and how we control that information is when we come to the governance part that we are going to discuss more detail on this meeting, I believe. So the other thing that opportunity it can give us is educational advancement. AI-powered tools enhance learning experience. Now, if you like to know how to make something, you really don't have to go to the library. You don't have to look for too much information everywhere. And you don't have to keep on searching on Google for indexed and unindexed information. Those on the field, you'll understand me, like Google will show you only to a certain extent indexed information and sponsored information, and then the rest will be hidden. So we have to be, the websites have to be indexed really to show the data at the top. And the time you spend on those Google searches is also longer. But now we have a very precise way of finding information. You can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Bing now with its Copilot feature, that is a Microsoft-based one, will give you some type of information, whatever you are looking for. For example, somebody would like to train their own large language model, or some of us didn't understand really what this large language model I'm mentioning about. So you can just type in, and then you will start to understand what LLM means and how you can be developed. Or those of us who are developers, like you like to develop something, okay, I would like to do this, and I would like to see a Python code. So it will develop for you a Python code. So you can use that code, you can customize it for you in specific case, and you can develop your own software. Developing games, so many things is now possible. You can generate even like stories very easily, like writing stories. You like to create some sort of fictitious story, and you can just feed it information about, I would like to find out information about two people who have been living in Addis Ababa. They moved to this city and they've started life. Can you please create a story based on this? And it will create for you such an amazing story. Those capabilities are here. So that means we can use it for productivity, for learning. And tailored content improves literacy rates and skill development. So time is saved, and also it will teach us a lot within a short period of time. So that educational advancement is there, and our students, our professors, everyone who wanted to learn about something can access information very easily. Precision and agricultural revolution is also coming to a very great success because of this generative AI. I have seen using some AI models, some predictions were done when a grasshopper effect has happened, I think, a couple of years back by one Ethiopian engineer for the East African community. So that is something like what AI can do on agriculture. And we can application optimization, crop management, or smallhold farmers is possible. Improves crop yield and promotes sustainable practices, because the prediction, like one of the things that this generative AI can do is also, if we know how to use it properly, there is a field called predictive analysis. If we can give it like the past years of data, what we have been accessing, then it will help us to develop a predictive model, and then we will be able to predict things regarding the agricultural area when crop is coming out. So those things also can help us a lot over there. And access to healthcare is a healthcare accessibility, remote healthcare services, bridging accessibility gap. Now, because of the accessibility of information, our doctors will have a good chance, our researchers will have a good chance of developing different kinds of medicines, and also providing the right kind of support. And the knowledge gap of new researchers, when the new researchers, our healthcare professionals are very busy professionals, as we all are aware of. So they will have a chance also to be to get up-to-date data on what is going on because of these generative AI capabilities based on when the model has been updated. So improved diagnostic accuracy and preventive care mechanisms have been possible. And the other thing that it can really help us, it is some of the things. I mean, there are so many things. I put also some references over here. It can do so many things for us. One of the other things it can do for us will be local language processing. So developing AI models for local language to enhance communication and information access possibilities here. And as you know it, we have where Africa is, we are blessed with lots of languages, lots of cultures and different perspectives. So I believe that generative AI is something also we can really utilize it on that regard so that we can share the different wisdoms from different cultures. We have got a good chance of sharing information from different perspectives, and different languages can be addressed, and language will not be a limiting factor for us in our communications. So these are some of the opportunities that have been sought after by different articles, and these are also some of the things that I've been working on. But these capabilities will not come without any kind of challenge or considerations or limitations. So some of the issues that we are facing and we are continue facing and how we can address it also will be here, besides the governance thing that we are discussing. Shall we go to the next slide, please? So considerations. When we are talking about considerations, we are aware of our internet penetration within our continent, and accessibility is there. So we have really infrastructure challenge. Having internet access is the first one, and then the rest of the world is also sharing these infrastructure challenges because of the very specific kind of GPU that's being used. There is NVIDIA is the one that is producing this one, and you can hear it on the news. This infrastructure capability is really a limiting factor specifically for the rest of the world too, but specifically for us. So we need to really address limited internet connectivity and an unreliable power supply. Not only having internet for us, its power is also our major issue. So some of the things that we need to address it regarding our challenges on how to use it, when to use it. So our government's involvement over here is definitely very high, and we're relying on them. And the other thing that comes along with it is ethical considerations. So deploying AI with ethical guideline and regulatory framework is extremely important, because when we are making everything accessible, then how we train the model has to be in a very ethical manner. Because after all, garbage in, garbage out, that it's a mission. So how we are going to work on it really matters. So ethical guidelines, ethical, and also notes on how not only on training the LLM, but the people are also working how we are going to treat them, because of vectorization of data is there on the technical side of it. So when we are working on things, so how we are going. Okay, am I audible? I heard some glitch.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. So ethical consideration, deploying AI with ethical guidelines is extremely important, which is another area which I'm happy about that this meeting is going to address. So how we are going to address ethical AI is something also, trustworthy AI, ethical AI is something we need to be really putting into consideration while we are emerging into these large language models. Skill development is another area. Though it comes with its own capability, it will equip us with a lot of knowledge, understanding, and education. But at the same time, to get into it itself also, it needs another level of education. So investing on educational programs for AI-related skill development is extremely highly important for us. So we always talk about, we have this digital divide, we have the gap. That is very true. But if we really focus right now on AI and invest our education on AI and start to teach it from a very young age on how we can use AI, then we can really, it will give us really a chance to accelerate and to come to the level where we can showcase what we have. Really, I don't think we are left out. We are behind on how we do things, but how we do things is completely different from how some others work with. So it will give us really a chance to showcase, but to showcase that, we need to be equipped with proper education. So that's something also we need to be really involved on our enhancing our capabilities, enhancing our skill sets, enhancing our, maybe I'm from computer science background, so I'm excited about it. So when people go there, it will give them a very good chance of developing their skill set on the area so that it doesn't have to be a really understanding. AI should not be limited to coding only or specific educational background. We have to leverage it for all, because as you can see it now, every one of us are using the same computer, every field. What we do on it is differs. So having the knowledge, understanding of how AI works is extremely important for the doctor, for the lawyer, for the accountant, every one of us, for mathematician, physicist, chemist, every one of us. Like there is no field that's not being affected by AI. When you go through the generative AI models and what information you can find for your specific field, you will start to appreciate it. So it's not specific to your field, but it is specific to everyone. So that is something also we need to focus on. Local context and sensitivity, something I have been addressing it also, tailoring AI solution to address specific regional challenges. So we are the ones who know our issues, we are the ones what is needed on our area. So that is something also we need to address based on, like we don't have to be considering what is the model that has been trained, developed for some other country. We can develop our own. That's also another consideration we need to put into place for our service. So affordability and accessibility, ensure AI-driven services are affordable and accessible to all communities, is something that the world is facing. It's not only for us, it's for the rest of the world, but at the same time, in our governance structure also, something we need to really put into consideration on how we can make it really accessible and affordable. So as it's expensive, whenever you are running any kind of model, it's expensive, it's in dollars, and but there are also some open source LLMs that are being available, like Llama, and there are so many. So how can we really access these ones, and how can we make it accessible? Maybe AfICTA can also with other open source communities, something we have been working on when I was around. So something we can address so that we can really address these considerations to have access to the opportunities that we have been discussing earlier. May I have the conclusion slide, please? So in conclusion, integration of AI holds promise for sustainable development in Africa. And it is really visible. I know every country is working on AI already, but regarding what all the efforts that we have been working on AI, we have to move, I think we have to really give it emphasis for generative AI and how we can really use it for sustainable development. And I believe that it is going to be very much beneficial over here. Size opportunities and address consideration for AI-driven progress. Africa poised to lead in the area of AI-driven innovation and knowledge empowerment, in my view. But when I say that Africa is poised to lead, because we have got a chance over here to showcase what the world haven't yet seen, a different perspective, a different view, so that it can be really, and also when it comes to generative AI, the whole world is also emerging. So because also it has emerged on 2017 in a wide range, or the model, the transformers model came in. So these changes And that means it gives us also upper hand with everything we are going ahead with, what's going on in the world. So we are here to challenge our considerations and to use for the opportunities. And for that, really, we need the governance, ethical governance, trustworthy governance, and how the government is going to involve it on all this will be extremely important. Thank you so much. You can proceed. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Tigis. That was a really impressive way of starting, just to at least make sure our audience is understanding where the conversation is and where we can build it now to go to discuss the governance. Welcome back, Dr. Nkundwe, and sorry for the hiccup. Maybe I'll also give an opportunity for Dr.
Thank you.
to speak and maybe outline his thought towards this conversation, and then we can proceed.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
My colleague who has just finished presentation now, she has set a very good foundation of the discussion that we have. What we are discussing now is a very important topic that touches what our continent needs to discuss about. That is artificial intelligence, the role of it, and the issue of governance and the whole process of digital transformation. Like the way my colleague just explained, when we talk about digital transformation, basically we are looking at it at 3 levels of development, where we can reach a level where we start to enjoy the benefits of AI in the different aspects of our society in the continent. That is the issue of economics, the issue of social, and the issue that have to do with environmental and other things. One is we need to do the process of digitization properly, and also we need to look at the issue that has to do with digitalization. And then after that is where we can start to enjoy the digital transformation of what we are discussing now. Now, to be able to move through those 3 levels until we reach this digital transformation, governance is very important. Because governance is important because there are some issues which really need to have different instruments to enable us to accelerate that transformation until we transform ourselves and we start to enjoy most of the things that are supposed to be there. And the issues are the issues of data. We need to articulate and put measures to ensure that, if possible, the data reside in the continent, rather than the data to be residing out of the continent. Because we all understand that once the data is not in the continent, it gives competitive advantage to companies or to countries where our data is residing. 2, we need to build the capability of our research institutions, education institutions, and experts to be able to create algorithms that they can analyze our data and get the insights in a quicker way so that we'll be able to enjoy that. Another issue is we need to invest into infrastructure, especially the infrastructure of computation. Now, I talk in the vantage point of the continent. I'm not talking the vantage point of Tanzania, because in our continent now we have African Free Continental Trade Area. So in the digital transformation or digital landscape, we need to look at Africa as one country. Now, if you look at Africa as one country, we need to create a digital economy which is very inclusive, which will benefit our people, which will enable our youth to be able to innovate and create systems that will enable them to do 2 things for the continent. One is to ensure that our sector, through digital transformation, is creating jobs for youth, and also the sector of digital economy is contributing substantially into the cumulative GDP of our continent. Now, explaining about all those things touch a lot of issues that we need to discuss, of which my colleague have articulated it very clearly. when we talk about having capability of creating algorithms which they can sift through data and unearth the insights which are necessary for us, we need also to discuss issues that has to do with our quality of education, our quality of research institutions, and all the ecosystem that has to do with education, especially the area of how our mathematics is. So governance is important because this issue touches different sectors. And if it touches different sectors, surely we need to have an instrument where we can govern, or we can govern that. And also there are issues that has to do with cybersecurity, because AI, we know, is a hot topic. Many people are discussing about it. It deals with data, it deals with computational devices. So we really need to know about the cybersecurity and the trust. And the area of trust is the issue that has to do with the consumer protection, of which my colleague has articulated very clearly. Other thing that's of importance into governance is an issue that has to do with digital telecommunication services. One, to ensure that our governance structure and all instruments that we use, they are creating an environment where telecommunication services are available indiscriminately in every point in our continent. We know if we analyze continents of the world, our continent has a number of people who are not connected to the internet. So countries in our continent, they need to work on to ensure that we connect more people into the internet, and then we have a network that is able to carry the AI workflows. Because we all understand that AI workflows, they need an infrastructure that has a lower latency than the infrastructure that we build, that we use to applications which are not mission critical. So we need to have that. And then if we start to analyze on that issue of digital communication services, we have to look at the model of the supply and the demand side. So in the supply side, countries need to provide infrastructure that will enable people to enjoy the AI that we have. But in the demand side, we have to make sure that the devices are accessible and the devices are ready to enjoy or to carry the workflows of AI. So this is an area also which is need to have an intervention. We need to look at the governance of it. Other thing is an issue of the digital economy itself, because we all understand people that they have superior algorithms nowadays, they convert other places, especially our continent, to be total consumer of their innovations. Now we need to ensure that first we create our large language models of the continent. Of course, now it's difficult to agree on which language to create large language models on, but we can agree which language to adopt as an African language, of which we'll start to innovate on top of it. But to start with, countries, they can decide to create their own language models, and then we can have one language model for the continent. Because having that is easy to create now the market for yourself, where other people will be able to, or startups to innovate on top of it. And also in the governance, need to talk about the entrepreneurship and the innovation parts, because in this area will ensure that no one is left behind, especially for the market of Africa that we have, because we all understand the cumulative GDP of the continent is $3.4 trillion US, and the contribution of ICT in that cumulative GDP is 7%, according to African Development Bank. If you do your mathematics, basically that is a market of almost 320 something billion US. Now, if you analyze who is benefiting from that market of AI, you will find that most of the companies are not in the continent, to be precise. So we need to ensure that our governance mechanism that we put there, they enable us to get a bigger share of that cake of the GDP that rising from ICT. We know that AI is creating a lot of opportunities, but the bigger issue is those opportunities that are supposed to benefit the continent, if possible, in larger extent, and if possible, to enable us to compete with other people around the world. Now, how can we build our capabilities? Because governance should be talking also about that how can we build our capabilities? I know there are a lot of youth who are creating AI applications nowadays, and they create a benefit for us. But we do understand the inner part of those applications, you'll find that they are using models which are residing in other continents, and also they are using computational infrastructure which is not in the continent. So we need to build the capabilities of machine vision and sensing, the models for predictions and decision making. We need to make sure that natural language processing, we invest more into that. And then we need also to invest in the AI enablers, of which is big data analytics and AI accelerator hardware. That is the hardware which is doing all the magic that we totally enjoy. And also, we do have to build the capability in the learning systems, of which is the issue of deep learning, reinforced learning. So the governance that I'm proposing that we need to follow up is the one that is going to build our capability in those areas that I've been talking about, so that we can enjoy more the new economy that other people they've termed as AI economy. So this is just my contribution so far, and I'm ready for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nkundwe, for that incisive deliberation of the topic. I would want to open the forum to all the panelists, and maybe we can open our videos so that we can start discussing the questions at hand. And so from the conversation that we already started, I will dive into the questions regarding framework. And so I will ask the audience and the panelists, this is one directed to Dr. Nkundwe, of governance. So a question on governance, how should governments regulate AI and use AI to ensure governance and fairness and transparency and accountability is adhered to. This is putting in consideration one of the use cases that from your country, Tanzania, when it comes to one of the use cases that is use of AI in judiciary. Yeah. And so maybe you can give us an insight of how that is working and how other governments can use AI in governance and fairness.
Well, thank you very much for that, and at least to lead me away on which use case I can use to answer that question. The Court of Tanzania, for real, they are using AI. I think it's among very few institutions in the continent that is using 100%. But I can explain their journey until they reach the level that they are. The process started some years ago. It didn't start 2 years ago or what. It's more than 10 years ago. I was involved into the, you remember I explained that for us to be able to enjoy AI and all those imaging technologies or digital transformation, you need to pass through 2 levels of development. First, you need to do the first process, which is called digitization. Very well, and digitization is defined from you'll find that a country has a lot of systems. When you go to level number 2, digitalization is now those systems, they need to talk to each other, and then the users of those systems are supposed to have digital identity number. Once you do that very well, that's a process that deals with interoperability systems and other things. Then you can start to enjoy the AI and all other emerging technologies. So the Court of Tanzania, they did digitization level number 1, digitization some years ago. All the court cases were digitized. They were in a digital form. They created a system, and then all entities that are involved into the function of the courts were connected. So now when they start to use AI, they found that they're using AI while they have those three components that I've been talking about. They have computing infrastructure, they have their data, and they are using their algorithms very well. And surely that is a journey that any other institution need to undergo. Now, if you want to transform the whole country, then you need to know that all the systems that you have created, and I know many countries in Africa, they've done digitization very well. They have those systems, they need to talk. They need to be able to exchange data. Now, that process is not an easy process. It's a bit complicated, because when you start to make systems to talk to each other, you find there are a lot of redundancies into systems. There are some systems they will go. There are some systems they'll remain. And then the issue of digital ID, that is another discussion of itself. Because having digital ID, we all understand, is crucial. Because if a country, say, has 1,000 systems of government which are offering services to the people, if you don't offer one digital ID number, it means if I, Mwasaga, am interacting, let's say, with 200 systems, so I will have 200 ID numbers, which defines me. Then if you put AI on top of it, you will confuse everything.
Oh,
AI will start to sift through many data to identify me, and which is very difficult, to say the truth. So that is a path that the court of Tanzania went through. I'm not saying that we have already digitalized everything in Tanzania, but in that subsector of the government, they've done the good job. Thank you.
oh, thank you so much, Dr. Mwasaga. That's just one of the many casing points that we want Africa to have. And I'm sure the audience is really intrigued by that use case. So I'll go to the next question. This will be directed to Dr. Lucy Muthoni. What are the ethical guidelines that government should develop so that they can ensure AI is well used in governance? So just you can respond.
Thank you very much, and I'm very impressed by my co-panelist, and I will, at the sake of repeating, one thing that Dr. Mwasaga has said is that there has to be trust. Because when we talk about artificial intelligence, we are feeding these particular systems information. We are using an algorithm that's going to identify patterns. And now, for us to get these patterns, we need to have data. Now, in Kenya, we have had several exercises where data has been taken. Like now, when people were registering for Huduma numbers, and some people even protested because they did not trust governance, or they did not trust how their data is going to be handled by the government. So when it comes to AI, it brings now the fact that we are trying to have systems working, systems connecting. We want to have, like now, for instance, we have eCitizen in Kenya, where most services, government services, are there. So when systems are working, a lot of information is changed, a lot of information is passed from one entity to another, and we are worried what is going to happen to this data, but we need the data to train the models, yeah? So when we look at ethical guidelines, the government in Africa, they have to be very clear, or even for the sake of even now, even if it's corporate governance, and we are looking at working now together as institutions, academic institutions, research institutions, as we try to start this, as we try to develop this particular space, is that one, it has to be very, very, very clear that transparency is there. So when we are creating this, especially when I'm talking about transparency, how are these algorithms created? What kind of data is used? What are they going to use this data for? Yeah. So that is one very important thing that we need to explain, how we are creating this algorithms, what kind of data we are feeding it, and so forth. Secondly, we need to have accountability. Like there has to be accountability between or among the people, the players in the systems, as the systems are talking to each other. I like that, Mwasaga, Daktari, thank you. When the systems are talking to each other, there has to be an accountability so that, as he mentioned, when there is no digital identity or something is missing, where is the glitch taking place? Who is responsible for that? You know, so if we want to start structures or we want to use AI to solve some of Africa's problems, for example, let's say agriculture, we have to look at, like, let's say we are looking at rain data, we are looking at soil, pH data, there'll be all these kind of beautiful data sets. Now, the question is, when there is a problem in the systems, when the systems are communicating to each other, and there happens to be a glitch, who is accountable for that? Where did the error happen? So as we're talking about governance, we have to ask what happens, what are the repercussions, for instance, of feeding the algorithm wrong data? Because some people, it can happen that someone actually maliciously does feed the algorithms the wrong data. So there has to be measures, we have to come up with measures to show accountability. What are the repercussions of the same, yeah? Then, for us to have an ethical framework, there has to be fairness. Like now, for instance, we can't, when you're dealing with, again, we have this story for looking at each, like we feel bigger, like I work for Strathmore University in Kenya. And if we have to come up with a group of researchers into this area, and we get mathematicians from SIMS, that is Strathmore, and then we get some mathematicians from University of Nairobi, and we are working together, none of the institutions should start feeling they're bigger than the other. We have to treat each other with respect, because there's a reason why this team has come together to try to solve a problem. So when we are even treating now countries, different countries, we're working with different countries. East Africa cannot start feeling like they're superior to West Africans and so forth. Yeah. So there has to be mutual respect for this to work. Yeah. And finally, there's so much I can talk about it, but the other thing is we have to look at social impact as we come up with structures. So what are these? What exactly do we plan to do with artificial intelligence? Who is it going to affect? How are we going to ensure that there is inclusivity, even of the people who are able differently? Yeah. So we have so many things coming up that are exciting. We are talking about, we need internet, we need infrastructure, we need computers, we need everything. But what about that person who can't see? Yeah, like the people who are unable to see, or someone who is illiterate, for example. So the question is, how do we ensure that as we are using AI for governance, and as we are using AI for many other things, can we also try to develop tools that will also have proper and positive impact for the people who are able differently from us? And if we just make things or tools for people who are living in the urban areas, because that's where most internet is concentrated, then what about that child in the rural area who is not able to access these particular services or this training or this education? So it is also imperative, as we, the researchers and the educators, especially at high levels, at university levels, we need to go down and also hold the hand of high schools, hold the hand of primary schools, and try as much as possible to reach out and assist as many kids as possible to onboard onto this. Like now, as Dr. Mwasaga said, he talked about enablers. Like we will need people to have particular skills. We will need, are these skills going to access every African? Can we make it possible? Can we embed it into our curriculum, for example? And so when we look at for us, again, also as an ethical framework, I would also like to look at, is there security? We need to consider security. We need to secure security of these particular systems. Are they secure? Cyber security comes into place. We have to look at, is it human-centered? Because we can't we can't just go haywire with a technology without looking at it. How does it affect the human being? How does it affect the human soul? You know, and will we use this particular technology that will affect the human being at the core? What kind of things do we want the African to learn from these tools? What kind of person do they become? Are they addictive? What makes social media addictive? You know, so those are things that we can consider, and many more. But yes, that's what I can share with right now. But I'm very passionate about this space. Thank you.
I'm very moved by the way you have put it. I totally agree with you. There's a one experience that I had with a country that is called Estonia. They have a certain guideline they put forward for all they call them data processors, people who are owning data of other people, and they process them in one way or another. You remember the example that I've said, when you accomplish digitization process, you'll find that a country has a lot of systems. You can have even, some countries they have 2,000 governmental systems, 3,000. So to answer the issue that we have raised, which is very, very pertinent issue, they have a rule which say any citizen of Estonia is supposed to register himself only once. Only once. So if there's a breaches, if you find that your data have been maybe sold somewhere else, you know exactly where the data came from. In our current situation, I'll talk about Tanzania, but I think it's the same situation in many African countries. You find you have registered your data maybe into 50 systems.
Oh.
Now, if a breach happens, it becomes really difficult to know exactly where it came from. And that's the reason why they say it is very important for systems to be able to talk to each other. Because once they start to talk to each other, it will be possible for you to say, you can register, the initial registration you do, let's say, in a passport system. Then other system, they will be interacting with your data from the passport system only. So if there will be a breach there, you know exactly where it came from. So I think also the continent can follow that model. It works in that way. But there's another thing that I wanted to also explain. When we move to AI economy, like the way most of the countries in Africa they're going now, we need to balance between two things. One, we need to balance between regulation and innovation. Because if we over-regulate,
yes,
it's going to kill innovation. Yeah, and if we leave people to innovate without regulation, they will start to mess up with your data and the other things. So I think we need to strike a balance. How to strike it? It's up to the technical people to do that. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy and Dr. Mwasaga. Now, I think there's something which has come up, which is one, how to prevent system from hurting or from injuring human beings. That is one of the things that comes also with ethical considerations. How do we also train our models to be critical centered? Like, should we train them in order so that they can identify issues to do with casualty training in language modeling and also machine learning? Because as in recent past, we have seen also equipment, mostly in robotics, injuring personnel, and who is also accountable for that? Because this is a robotic system. Who is accountable? Is it the person that trained the algorithm, or is it the person that handles the updates? So I think it's a gray area, and we can shift this conversation to a more centered towards accountability and also who should be put accountable. And so the next question will go to Ms. Tigris. And I'll be asking, how can transparency in AI decision-making process in government be ensured? So we are talking about governance, but also let us also be open not only governance, but all AI systems.
Okay, thank you. And it's already moving conversation. I'm getting really also excited. I don't know exactly what's being done in my country, Ethiopia, but I follow up. There is a lot of AI movement, but overall, I follow also what's going on since working for international organizations. And I'm very happy that we are having these discussions. Not only because we're discussing it now, but it's also what I am witnessing all over the world. Like I can see it, like Indians are having the same kind of discussions who have a little bit advanced on technology. You can see this kind of discussions being going on everywhere. So I think when I'm hearing now about digital ID and everything, first of all, as everything, technology has its own advantages and disadvantages. There are completely unavoidable advantages. It's like mesmerizing advantages, but at the same time, it has extremely unavoidable disadvantages. So we're choosing which one is best. That's how I see it. So like here in US, they use index number for every human being. We have a specific number. We call it social security. So your social security number will track you wherever you go, whatever you do. So it has a lot of advantage. Life is quite simple. Wherever you go to a bank, they see who you are. They know who you are. All your information will come up at the same time. Your data, who you are, is being controlled. So that aspect of it there. So when specifically coming to how can governments or anyone who's working on different large language models can make it a really trustworthy system, number one will be making sure that clarifying how the algorithms have been trained. The major issue we have is data. Do we have secure quality data? So how that data is collected by whom? Because it's also open for bias. Bias is one of the major issues that we are facing everywhere when it comes to AI. So the large language models can provide a biased data based on the quality of data that they have been fed. So that is something also we needed to work on our skill sets so that we can feed the right data, and also ethical standard of the personnel who's working on the system really matters. Like when we're talking about digital ethics first, I think outside of the digital ethics really matters. So some of the things that our governments need to make sure that transparency on how algorithms have been created, trained by what type of data, and the second thing is the source of the data. Does this data came from really a trusted source, or does the data came from untrusted source? We all know that data coming from different people really matter. So I think on this case, our research institutions will play a crucial role. Universities and research centers are expected to be, I guess, neutral, and they will provide really a better data source. And using that utilization and developing the skill set of the people who are really working on it, and also really understanding what it's going to bring into the table will be something. In addition to that, decision criteria and impact assessment. So how the data has came to in place, how the algorithms have been trained, and then how that quality data has been used needs to be assessed. So putting in place criteria on how that data has been assessed, how that large language model and what the kind of information it's providing is being accessed is needs something, a control system that will develop a trustworthiness in the system. Plus, stakeholders' engagement and how we conclude on it will be really the crucial factor. Are we really involving the right personnel, the right institutions into the system? Like if we are developing some sort of financial system, if we are not involving really the financial people, or if we are working on legal system if we are not involving the legal people and making sure that they are part of it from the beginning. Like, let them buy the idea, let them be the source of the data, those who are producing the data, those who knows the issue from the beginning, be part of the stakeholder. I think if the governments can do that, then the trustworthy models, a very good chance of producing a trustworthy model will be there so that it can be used later on. Otherwise, what has been developed will not be accessible, even if it has been done in a very good way. So I believe that having those criteria, training the model, making sure that the algorithms are clear how they are trained, making sure that the right data source and quality of data is ensured, and making it transparent through the process will help us, and involving the right stakeholders through the process will help us to make sure that we have a trustworthy AI. Thank you.
So much for that. I believe quality, you know, when we started, I think most of us here are techies, when we started college, there was a thing which was called the garbage in, garbage out. I think it's totally applicable in all systems. And so if the information we are gathering, or if the quality of data that is being used in the LLMs is not African-based, does not speak purely of African contents, then it cannot be used to make African decisions. And so I believe also, as Dr. Mwasaga and also Dr. Lucy have mentioned, we need also to create a way of hosting our own data, decentralizing our own data, so that we can have system that speak for us, and also system that make decision based on our own story. So thank you so much, Ms. Stiglitz, for that. I will welcome Dr. Jimson, one of our stakeholders at AfICTA, to speak a bit about the topic and also give his contributions. Karibu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Chair. And thank you, all the speakers. Great interventions from the beginning to this moment. I just want to chip in that the topic is a very serious topic, and it has drawn the attention of world leaders at the United Nations. The issue of ethics, the issue of accountability, those are very, very important issues. Just for the fact that technology must be accountable to we humans. Technology must be accountable to us. You must be able to have that kill button if it's going out of hand. So in this wise, the United Nations on March 11th this year, they passed a resolution on the use of AI for the trustworthy AI, that is encouraging companies, organizations to use AI to build trust and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. You know, there are 17 development goals that the UN articulated 2015. And this AI can actually assist. And all the speakers spoken very well. Dr. Mwasaga talked about from digitization to digitalization, digital transformation, and then AI usage. So it's all about data and quality data. Now, in terms of protection of our identity, yes, digitalization, AI will really help human beings, to us, in particular Africa, to bridge the digital divide, okay? But we have to note that the data we put out there is not 100% secure. So we still try our best, basically, and we commend what's being done in Tanzania, even in Kenya, and also in Nigeria. We have a data protection organization with data protection owners and controllers given responsibility. Intermediaries too, they have to be concerned about what they're allowed to pass through their network. So there has to be some form of responsibility by intermediaries as well, and by those in charge of data. So the quick intervention, just to say that this is the way to go. AI is for good, but we must train it with our own data to be trustworthy for our own good. And that is why researchers and government need to support as many that need to create this system for our use. There is this funding, Universal Service Provision Fund. Government need to use it pretty well to create access to the underserved, okay? So that we can bring in the people in the remote areas as well. So no one should be left behind. And I believe we're already on course. The Nigerian government announced the training of 3 million youths, on technical skill, particular reference to AI. So I think we can bridge the gap. Then lastly, the need for cybersecurity maturity. So we need to take our cybersecurity maturity very seriously. A research by the UNECA recently indicated that a 10% increase in our cybersecurity maturity will yield between 0.66% and 5.4% increase in GDP per capita. So it's a benefit to us if we take our security seriously, if we take our data protection regime seriously, and if we bring in our people even to using AI. So AI is for good, and we should embrace it. So thank you so much, Tigis, for your beautiful presentation. I appreciate it. Lucy, that was illumination by teacher. Thank you so much. So Chair, Deputy Chair, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jimson, for that. I tend to believe that we are in the presence of great people and great minds, and we are open to hearing all the conversation. And I think one of the things that we should be thinking about right now is how are we going to use this kind of use cases and this kind of conversation to enable our governments and also our institutions and countries to foster AI in governance, digital transformation, and creation of policies around that. So we will dive down to the Q&A, and I'll go directly to one of the questions from Musa, which is how can AI... Okay, I believe you meant how will AI ensure continued revolution in the e-governance and digital transformation in Africa. And I think I'll share this to Dr. Lucy. How can AI ensure that there is a continued revolution of e-governance and digital transformation in Africa?
Repeat the question.
How can AI ensure that there is a continued revolutionization of e-governance and digital transformation in Africa?
You see, the good thing with artificial intelligence is that it grows. Yeah, the more information you give it, the more it grows. So when we are looking at e-governance, for example, like that is, we are saying that this is information that is available or accessible or, yeah, virtually. Yes. Now the thing is, and I'm going to use the Kenya's example. Like we love talking. We are very vocal about anything that does not sit well with us. So when we are looking at, if we were to collect for sentiment analysis, so because you can be able to analyze people's feelings about a particular issue using social media, hashtags or trends and so forth. So if something is happening, like, and the governor, we feel like the systems are not communicating properly or we're not being listened to, and there is an issue of governance that needs to be addressed, people would talk, people would write about it. So the more this particular algo is fed information, the more now even and so this information would be, we want better governance. We want, there is a glitch somewhere, it needs to be sorted. So when it is fed that new information, then it grows, it learns from it. It's just like, as we said, as when we're beginning, that artificial intelligence is simply teaching a machine or an application to behave human-like. So even us, when we make mistakes, we learn from it. Next time, you're not going to touch that hot pan. So I believe that when we have artificial intelligence, it will be even actually easier to fast track issues we have with any part of governance, whether it is corporate or national or continental. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy, for that answer. I believe the question has been dealt with well. So I'll go to the next question, and the question is, I'll read, how can Africa government continue to invest and support the education programs for AI and other digital transformation and technology skills to young people in Africa? And so this one, I'll direct this to Dr. Nkundwe.
Can you say it again, the question? I didn't get it very well.
Okay, I'll repeat. How can Africa government ensure that continue to invest and support education programs for AI and other digital transformation technology skills to young people in Africa?
That's a very good question. And it falls into the pillar of digital skills. Like the way I said before, that if you want to conquer AI so that we can use to our advantage, digital skills are very important. And now I will, because my background is from academia, and this is the area where I've worked for 17 years. AI need an investment from primary school. I don't know about the education system of many other African countries, but of course we have a foundational, in Tanzania we call it primary schools. In primary schools, people, they are supposed to interact with technology, our kids. But one subject that we need to invest very, very much, we need to invest into mathematics. Because AI, if you take aside data and the computation, which basically if you have money, you can buy infrastructure of computation. The area of the algorithm need a foundation in mathematics. So we need to invest into that so that our kids will be having capability of thinking outside the box, being able to create algorithms, because we all understand technically algorithms, they are boiling down to mathematics, the issue of logics and things like that. Now, going to secondary school, basically we're supposed to start to give access to students so that they can start to use models. Not to design models, because designing needs additional knowledge, let's say of diploma level or degree level, but to start to use models. Now, when they start to enter into A level or university, we have to ensure that we teach them on how to create different models. And like the way I said before, and the way my colleagues have articulated very well, is if we want to reduce biases, and if we want to make sure that the footprint of Africa is into the AI world, we need to have our large language models, our own, the way they think, like the way we think as Africans. So I'll give one example of one case that I've experienced two months ago in Tanzania. There's a gentleman, he's a very good expert in AI, living in the United States, but originally is from Nigeria. He came here with a very good model that he has trained it very well in the area of clinical medicine, especially in cancer research. But when I started to discuss with him and I was asking him that, okay, so which model you're using? And he said that I've trained data from a number of countries that he mentioned, but he didn't train data from Tanzania. So I asked him, but in Tanzania we speak Kiswahili. You know, we have our language in here. And language also determines on how someone think and how someone reason. So I was asking that, you know, for us here in Tanzania, we speak Swahili. So do your model understand Swahili or doesn't understand? He say, I have to admit to you that that's an area where you need to invest. And he gave me one example. He said in his model, for instance, if you write, I have a headache and temperature is high and I vomit, the model will say you have cancer. But in my country, that can be malaria. So it's very important for us to create our own large language models, if possible, in all languages that are spoken in Africa, if possible. But we can start with the bigger languages. We create them in that way. Now, this question is very important because for us to be able to do that, it depends on the quality of education that we provide to our kids and all the students that are in the education system around Africa. Because I can tell you one thing, no one will create large language models for us. We need to create our own so that we'll be able to put our context in the digital world that we have. The way things are now, and I would like to repeat this point, many of our innovators, they're creating AI apps, but the brain that enable that app to work, most of them, they are created outside the continent. And that has to change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I believe the question is extensively answered and actually satisfactorily answered. So I on top of that, I want you to also answer this other question, which is in line with the data. So can this is from ISOC Live, we're also on ISOC Live, so can also lack of connectivity lead to data deserts, which in turn feeds AI biasness? So we are, Dr. Mwasaga, you have spoken about connectivity and how that will enable the transformation. So would you also answer this question?
Yeah, that's very correct. And that's a very pertinent question. There's a one time I was involved into the development of digital transformation guideline of Tanzania. And when we were looking at the necessary indicators for digital transformation, I first started to look at the global practice. And everywhere I was looking at, there was one indicator which is called latency. And at that time, we were trying to ask ourselves, what got latency to do with digital transformation? But the issue is the quality of network infrastructure determine the prowess that you have in AI. AI workflow or AI applications, they require the network infrastructure that has very low delay. If you have the infrastructure that have bigger delay, you will not be able to enjoy it because AI have one characteristics. It has a tendency of getting data from different sources and put them together and analyze them on fly. Now, it is important for us to build robust infrastructure. I'm not saying that we are not supposed to do it, but we are supposed to do, and if possible, to create very robust infrastructure that will enable us for AI to workflow to run very well. So one takeaway that I want experts that we are here in this forum to understand is we need now to start to look at that indicator, which is called latency. It's very important, and it's very important for AI. Having networks that they have bigger latency, it will give us disadvantage so that we start to use infrastructure which are outside the continent. Because AI need a shorter time to do analysis, to get the insight, and so that we can make decisions much, much quicker. Out of that, we'll continue to use AI the way we are using now, because anytime you use ChatGPT and other applications of that sort, the infrastructure that we use are the one that they're in another continent, and I don't want to mention which continent are that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll go to the next question. And also, as we are going through the Q&A, there is a pop-up that will come from our secretariat. You can answer the survey questions of this topic and what your opinions are of that. So I'll go to the next question. I think this one is already answered, what gaps that mathematics and AI can assist in developing countries. So the next one will be, how is regulation being designed around AI usage? And what agencies are saddled with monitoring the AI? I think this one will go to Dr. Lucy. or any of the panelists who is able to answer that. Dr. Lucy, are you aware of agencies that are designing or developing and monitoring AI systems in Africa or in the world?
No, I haven't delved deeper than that, like to that extent. But probably we can ask Dr. Tigist. Maybe she can assist, Miss Tigist.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. At least you said my name right. Tigist. Okay. I heard all types of pronunciation. That's okay. No, to my understanding, no. I know the different organizations that have been working with are working on different capacities. But I think also when you look at it, the governance, what is needed, I think every country should own it. In my perspective, every country should own it. We are the ones who know our data. We are the ones who should have access to it. Like earlier I heard, I think it's from one of our panelists about owning our data and keeping it into our infrastructure. Well, that's very questionable stuff because since we are on the cloud area, and then unless we have our own cloud, putting it on the cloud, but how we can, I think, control it is through regulations and governances, the way we put in, and having our own expertise. I think it is a time for us to get involved and to really close the gap, not close at least, but at least really to narrow down the gaps. This is a bigger opportunity for us because it's given for every other country in the world. So I'm really looking forward to it. When it comes to regulations, we are expected, I think, in my personal opinion, I believe like the bigger organ like UN, World Bank, and IMF will come up with their own, but that's a different perspective. But I would believe that every country should have its own, and even when it's provided to us to accept even something, we should know what we are signing up for. So I believe that it should be within every other country. Thank you, and
Okay, thank you so much. I believe Mr. Chris, as you have mentioned, UN is also taking a very big step towards regulating of AI and developing policies with the Secretary General Envoy of Technology, mostly focused around AI. And so I think they're still in the preliminary phases of negotiation and adoption and creation of these policies. And so we can say, as of now, we really don't have a regulatory or a person that looks after. And so, yeah, so need for these kind of conversations.
Rachel, what happened to the task force that was being led by Bitange?
For it was on blockchain and the AI.
Yes, it was for blockchain and AI, but I do not. To what extent might you know? I'm just asking. Might you know to what extent they adopted the blockchain?
Well, I have to say I'm not really informed on that aspect, but I think if they were really making progress, or if their progress, maybe it's still on negotiation tables. And so nothing has really come out for adoption and also for stakeholders to be involved in contributing. So we can say there's nothing really that has amount from that conversation, but it's good that you've remembered. So thank you so much. I'll go to the next question. This one is actually directed to Dr. Nkundwe from Joel. What are some of the most popular use case of AI in crime control, traffic control in Tanzania? Because they seem to have the most orderly society.
Thank you very much for that. But
I don't have a use case for that because of the following thing. I'll try to explain it a bit in technical way so that we understand. Whenever we hear that people are mentioning emerging technologies, there are a number of technologies that they do mention them. One is Internet of Things. To be able to control the traffic, you need to invest into sensors so that they can be giving you data on fly, so that the algorithms can be able to sift through data of how to control things in that way. We are still improving on that. I cannot say that we are already there. We're still improving like that, and we reach that level. But we all understand the challenge of traffic from technical point of view is a complex challenge. Even in developed world where we have cities which are very advanced, they still have issues on how to control the traffic, because pattern of movement of people is one of the complex to be done. I know AI can help in some way, but the whole planning of the things, or the city or things like that, need to be designed in such a way that it take consideration that there's an AI that will come and AI will be able to make decisions. But the way things are, for example, I give example of the city where I'm living now. The city was, I think it's having almost 100 years since it was created. So 100 years ago, there was no even thinking that there will be AI one day. So AI has found the city. Now, even if we give AI enough data from sensors, the way the architecture of the city was done cannot be optimized in such a way that things are going to flow very well. What I understand from technical point of view, smart cities of today, cities which are designed from the scratch now, based on the smart city, they are not going to have problems with like the city that we have in our continent, which were created in the time that where AI was not in there. So AI can help things in certain aspects, but still there will be a challenge in that. But again, I'll go back to the issue of the bias of the large language model that can be used in such a challenge. If you use a large language model of, say, very developing countries to solve the issue of our continent, surely we will have some biases, and it's not going to work in an optimal way. The only thing that we are supposed to do is to create our own large language models from the scratch, based on the challenge that we have, and be able to scale them to ensure that we have solutions for the continent. One thing that we need to understand, and I wanted to add from my colleague who spoke before, is, of course, in Africa, we have 54 countries, right? But when it comes to data, when we start to define country based on the capability to produce data per day, surely Nigeria will be number one, right? Because data depends on population, depends on number of devices that are in a country. So if we start to have a strategy where we do look at individual countries, that is 54 countries, we are not going to benefit from the AI. AI in our continent need to have a continental framework or guideline where we can share our data for the great benefit of the continent. Because we do have countries in Africa that they have population, say, of 3 million people, 1.4 million people, and some other 5, and the other countries they have 100, 80, and things like that. We need to have a common data framework agreement where we can share our data together for the common purpose of the continent. In those 3 aspects that I've explained them very clearly is, if a country has money, can buy infrastructure. That's not a bigger problem. If a country has money, can buy even the best algorithms or large language model. But if a country has a population of, say, 2 million people, they will never have enough data to be able to train. So they're going to have some challenges on that. So I think we need to think as a continent, pull our data together. Of course, we need to agree on how we are going to do that so that we can benefit from AI economy that is developing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mwasaga. Dr. Jimson, please, as we wind up.
Okay, very interesting feedback there, responses. I just want to provide this quick information. The Lagos state government is already using some measure of AI to control traffic. You know, Lagos state economy is the 5th largest economy in Africa. So traffic of offenders now are easily apprehended based on cameras and Internet of Things. So is this going to grow, just as you talk about, Dr. Mwasaga? And also to let us know that there is this data policy framework by the African Union. We need to Google it. All countries should read through it. There is a kind of a template, a framework for data sharing, especially when we look at the African Continental Free Trade Zone that we are going to be operating in. We're already operating in it, and we need to exchange our data. So we need to govern our data locally, because look, AI is just about data, as we have been saying, and algorithm. Data and algorithm. So, and we need to share this data together. Thank you so much. Back to you, Deputy Chair.
Okay, thank you so much for that brief, Dr. Jimson. Thank you so much, Ms. Tikris. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy and Dr. Mwasaga, for gracing the occasion. And also for all the participants. I also want to commend you for also giving us your time, you sharing your knowledge, and just being overall awesome in this conversation. I will welcome Madam Ariola to close and also give closing remarks to end this e-conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rachel. And everyone, I want to say a big thank you to you all on behalf of AfICTA. Interestingly, I wish this conversation will continue because it has been so enriching and so insightful. I want to believe that every participant here has taken away something. Let me specifically, once again, on behalf of the chair of AfICTA, thank the speakers, Ms. Tiges, Dr. Lucy, and Dr. Mwasaga, for your active contributions, for your insightful and knowledgeable and enriching contributions and interventions concerning the role of AI in governance and digital transformation. I want to thank every participant because it has been reading through the question and answers, the charts, and it has been really engaging. I thank you all for your engagement on behalf of AfICTA. Well, I believe that this forum has provided insightful discussions and invaluable contributions towards harnessing the potential of AI in achieving inclusive governance and driving digital transformation. So as we conclude the event, I want us to remember that the responsible deployment and ethical use of AI will be key in shaping a better future for our societies. Let's further strengthen collaborations and knowledge sharing, and to collectively navigate the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. I also want to recognize the presence of the immediate past chair of AfICTA, Tabo, immediate past vice chair, Paul Roney. It's good to have you both here. Knowing that we have your support is great. is also use this opportunity to thank and acknowledge the presence of Dr. Jimson Olufuye. That's the founder of AfICTA and the first chair, and also the chair of the advisory board of AfICTA. We thank you very much for your continuous engagement and for your continuous push. We thank you for being on this call too. We're hoping that the collaborations will continue beyond this conference. AfICTA does have its quarterly conferences, and this is one of them. This is our first for the year. So you should, our participants, we thank you for your participation once again, and we believe that your participation in our future conferences will be deeply appreciated. We want you to seize the opportunity to become part of the Africa ICT Alliance. I believe the Secretariat has been sharing the links for you to be part of this great journey, and we look forward to a fruitful and continuous engagement as we continue in the development of digital transformation in the African continent. As we all know, this AfICTA's vision and mission is to deliver the promise of the digital age. And this discussion today is one of the key pillars towards achieving this goal. And in our subsequent conferences, we hope to also continue to build on this. And as we welcome you all to be part of this wonderful and inspiring alliance that will bring about digital transformation on the African continent as a whole. So once again, we thank you for your participation. The Secretariat will be giving room for a group picture so that we can have memories for this wonderful and enriching session. Thank you once again, Dr. Rachel, for our Vice Chair for East Africa and the Deputy Chair for the Africa ICT Alliance. So on behalf of AfICTA, once again, I say thank you to all, especially the speakers, for your enriching contributions. Thank you all. Secretariat, I yield the floor to you.
All right. I want to use